Hello, my friends, and happy Thursday. It's, well, I would love to say that it's a beautiful day, but we have so much smoke in the air at this point. So hopefully that it's over pretty soon and we'll have more beautiful summer days. In the meantime, what we're working on today is something that I find very exciting. And it is a beaded bead of sorts. It's a focal point that we actually create, and then we create our necklace around the focal point. So let me show you what we're doing. And I love this technique so much, you guys, that I made 5 different colorways. And so a little bit while we're saying hi, while we're just getting ready to do the project. So just a little bit about this technique. It is something that I came up with once I discovered these really fun components. And so these components are filigree. They're extremely open-ended. I have made so many different projects with these components. I have used them in several of my books. And what can I say? It's just been a super popular type of project for many years now. And every time I do something like this, I reinvent it. And really, how fun is it to create our own focal piece with the colors that we enjoy? And because I like the idea, I very much like the look of color gradation, I use this technique to create my own little mini color gradation in some of the projects with these types of components. I created much larger multi-row color gradation type of pieces, but this is just kind of a little mini one.
Ellen says, hi, Irina and everyone. Yes, it's smoky here in Maryland, too.
Hi, Ellen. I am so sorry to hear that. You know, summer is really my favorite season. I love to be outside, and I know so many of us do. And it's just, what can I say? It's just such a bummer that we can't go outside these days. But hopefully it will all dissipate very soon, and then we'll enjoy our beautiful gardens.
Barb says, good evening, everyone. Looking forward to a fun project.
Hi, Barb. Good evening, and thank you so much.
Lori says, good evening, Irina and Tony.
Hi, Lori. Good evening.
And Trudy says, hi, everyone.
Hi, Trudy.
Allie says, hi, these are amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Ellie.
Jane says, hi, everyone. These look like fun.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much.
And Kim K says, happy Thursday.
And happy Thursday to you, Kim. All right, guys. So, let's see. What else can I tell you about this? Well, for me, it's primarily about creating my dream focal. Why is it my dream focal? Well, because I get to put together the colors that I really enjoy. And these are still Swarovski, I have to tell you. So, in fact, with some of these, we actually ran out of some of the Swarovski colors we've been stashing. And so this is kind of an extra layer of enjoyment and sparkle. And so just a little bit about let's see, about the technique. Well, as you know, we are about to create a focal point piece with these lovely filigree components. And it is so much easier than it looks. When I show it, people are always surprised by how very simple it is. So it's much more simple than, say, a stitched focal point piece. And so then we are creating the necklace around the colors in the focal point piece. And so there are quite a few different techniques in here. If you haven't created one of these architectural components yet, that's one technique. Knotting is a different technique. Finishing is another technique yet. So get your favorite cup of tea, coffee, whatever you enjoy, and we're going to get started.
Fonda says, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Fonda. I'm so glad you're joining us. All right, guys. So this is what I'm doing right now. I am just grabbing my little Swarovski crystals so that we can start creating. And we are going to move some of these. Actually, this is too many beads. I just threw some beads on my tray. So we actually just need 6 of each. And let's see, we'll keep this one. This is the one that I'm going to be working on right now. And we'll move the rest just to give us a little bit more room.
Katie says, good evening, all. Dinner ran late.
Hi, Katie. Well, I hope you enjoyed your dinner. What did you have for dinner? Everybody wants to know. It's always kind of fun to know. Oh, and you know what? I just realized that I did forget one thing. Oh, actually, no, I did forget something. But you know what? It's okay. We are going to just kind of work around it. Okay, so we are starting with the focal point piece, and I'm going to be using 28 gauge wire. And for this type of a project, I really like using something that's really equivalent to dense soft wire. So out of the brands that I really enjoy, I picked artistic wire, and we're going to get started. So my segment of wire is a little shorter than yours in the kit. I can't remember exactly how long yours is, but mine is about 12 inches, and really you could even just have 10 inches. So this is what I just did. I just folded my wire in half. So the center of my wire is kind of like a little soft U. And I'm going to take both of the ends of my wire and go through the component like this. So you go through 2 adjacent openings, okay? And actually, I think I'm going to rearrange my beads just a little bit. So this is the order that I'm going to have them in. So this order kind of suggests color gradation. And I'm just going to be going in that order. So this is going to be the first row, the middle row, and the last row. And of course, you can arrange them in whatever order you decide, whatever makes you happy. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a couple of beads that are going to end up in the first row and just string them onto my wire ends. So something like that. And now I am stringing through the next component. Very easy, you guys. And now I am going to start my middle row by putting on that really, really pretty Pacific opal. And yes, this is the last of the Pacific opal in Swarovski. And I know we're mourning just a little bit because, well, as you know, Swarovski does not sell to our industry anymore. And we did a pretty good job stocking up, but we are starting to run out of certain colors and certain shapes. So the exciting news is that we will be replacing our rounds with Preciosa. And we have some very, very exciting colors coming in just a couple of weeks. So this is what we have so far. So we have 2 rows. So now we're just going to move everything to that little U. Remember the U, this is the center. And now we're going to be working with just one end of the wire at a time. So it's really the same exact idea. You string through the adjacent loop on the component, you pick up a bead, and you go through the next loop on the next component. And you pick up a bead, and of course, every time you pick up a bead, you make it a point to pick up the bead that matches that row. It's very, very simple, you guys. And I have made so many different projects using this technique. You can actually do so much more than what I'm doing right now. If you have any of my books, just look through. I actually, specifically, I remember that I have a whole chapter of projects, meaning multiple projects, multiple designs in the component book. What is it called? Tony probably knows what it's called. Well, anyway, I did this book.
Finding Style.
Yes, good job. Thank you. So I did this entire book on unusual components and what to do with them. And I have quite a few projects using this technique. So you can do this and position the component vertically or horizontally. You can add things to it. You can use these components to frame pieces. So they're really quite versatile.
Allie says, love all of your former kits that use these filigree components. So fun.
Oh, thank you so much, Allie. So you are familiar with some of them. I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm not sure that we can actually get these components anymore. But again, because I have been using them for such a long time, we have made it a point to acquire quite the stash. So I'm sure that occasionally you will see, another kit or two with these components. And this goes so quickly, ladies. So look at this. I'm almost at the end. I just have one little row to go. So it's a good idea to just kind of tug very gently on the wire as you go. But oh yeah, I did. I managed to pull, I had this little loose loop here, and I managed to pull it in. So just very gently, because the wire is really quite thin. As I mentioned, it's 28 gauge wire. And I have done this with a slightly larger gauge, 26. And I really prefer actually the 28 gauge wire. It just works better.
Lori is wondering, could you use bicone Swarovski crystals, and what size are you using?
Thank you for asking, Lori. That's a great question. So I'm using 4mm rounds, and I have done this with stone as well. And so kind of a little bit of a tangent about the stone. Well, you know what? First, let me actually answer your question. But as I answer your question, this is what I'm going to do. So as you can see, I have filled all the rows. So this is my entire bead. But now we have to reinforce it a little bit and do something with those ends, right? We can't just leave it like this. So what I'm about to do is go back through the rows one more time. You don't actually have to go back through all 6 rows. And, when I say 6, I'm counting them, I'm counting the loops, not the rows this way. So I usually like to go through all 6 just so that it's really nice and sturdy. And so I think I'm going to be using this longer and And then, of course, I will show you how to hide the ants. And I'm going to go in the direction where I don't have those little I think of them as almost like a little bridge between the loops. But really, it's just the wire going from one loop to the next. So as we do this, let me answer your question. So I do not like using bicones. I don't feel that it's as nice of a look because, you know, when you use rounds, they fit into those loops so perfectly. They're just kind of cradled by the loops. Whereas if you use bicones, and I tried, I wasn't crazy about the outcome. And just a little more. So the best size to use is, you know what, this one just does not want to go in. But I feel like I've done enough reinforcing with this wire, and it's okay. I'm just not going to go any further. I could play with the beads and move them gently this way and that way and get the wire through. But it's not necessary, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so once you have reinforced and you have gone through most loops once again, we're going to finish the ends. And this is what we're going to do. We are going to just kind of place the wire flat like this and cut the wire about 8 millimeters from where it comes out of this bead. Okay, so if we were to measure this little wire, it would be about 8 millimeters. And we're going to grab our chain nose pliers, bend the end of the wire like this, and just kind of feed it right into the hole in the bead and push it in just like that. So you can't even tell which one is the end. And we will just do exactly the same thing on the other side. So a little bit about using stones. So as I mentioned, 4 millimeters is the best size. But sometimes when you buy stone beads that are labeled 4 millimeters, they're actually not 4 millimeters. They might be 3.6 or they might be 4.2. So it's not the same standard, right? So, so if it exceeds 4 millimeters, it's just not going to work because it's going to get a little bit too crowded. And by the time you get to the last row, you simply do not have enough room to fit it in. If it's just a little bit under 4 millimeters, it will still work beautifully.
Lori says, okay, yes, I understand that. Stay with rounds.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And the good news is they can be faceted rounds, they can be, you know, whatever rounds. So this is what it looks like. So one thing I was going to grab is just a separate little piece of string, as in Ceylon, which is what I'm using, and I didn't. So we will just improvise. So let me remind you, this is how you make a self needle. So I actually already made a self needle on this piece of string, but I will cut it off just so we can make another self needle. And that will take care of everything. So to make a self needle, we're going to use a little super glue glue. And it's a good thing to have a little piece of paper right next to you. And mine is already folded, which is exactly what I'm going to need in order to make a self needle. So we're going to just get our glue going. And do you see how I'm applying pretty much as little as I possibly can to my string? And once I put the cap right back on my glue, I'm going to draw my string through the piece of folded paper. And when it makes that nice little squeak, that's a good thing. That means you're removing as much as you possibly can. So don't try to build it up. Don't put extra glue on it, because that would be a hindrance. And this glue dries very, very quickly. So we're just going to give it a couple of, well, not even a couple of minutes. I'm talking about like 10, 20 seconds. Now, in the meantime, while we're doing that, I will show you the pattern which I have already pre-strung.
Lori says that is so pretty. That's in regards to the bead.
Oh, thank you so much, Lori. I'm so glad you like it. It's so fun to make. You should definitely make one. It's just, you know, there's something so incredibly satisfying about it. And so we will just look at the pattern. And while we're looking at the pattern, what I would like to point out is, you know, because people are always asking me about color choices and how I make my color choices. So regarding this, let me just share a little bit. So once I make my focal point piece, I look at the focal point piece and I start thinking what would be complementary to this focal point piece. And it's nice to have something that picks up the colors, which of course is going to make it complementary. But what I really love to do is pay attention to the textures and the sparkle or the lack thereof. So the focal point piece that we just made is very sparkly. Of course, it's Swarovski, it's very sparkly, it's faceted. So in my book, the best way to both contrast it and complement it is to have something that is matte. And so when you put something that's matte next to your fun, sparkly focal point piece, the matte makes it stand out. So the matte makes the sparkle more sparkly. And of course, the sparkly focal point accentuates the elegance and the this understated beauty of the matte beads. So, so when I design, I look at the texture, the opacity versus transparency of the beads. I also look at the shape of the beads. So in this case, we have made kind of a tubular focal point. So now we're going to just kind of continue that with our disc beads. And you know, when you put a whole bunch of disc beads right next to each other, beads that have flat sides as opposed to rounded sides are never going to lay well when they're all together and bunched up. So because of that, it is always such a super, super good idea to space them with something maybe small, maybe not small. And as long as it's kind of small, it does not actually have to have rounded edges. So in this case, I'm using little teeny tiny spacers that look like this. These are the thinnest little spacers. They are actually probably even a little bit smaller than 1 millimeter. I'm not talking about the diameter, I'm talking about the thickness of each spacer. So about the pattern, since I have already pre-strung everything, so about the pattern, so we have our very contrasting bead, and so most patterns are going to be very similar to this, where the darkest bead, the most contrasting bead, is right next to the focal, and then we're spacing with not one but 2 little spacers in between. So I have 2 little hematite spacers in between each bead. And so then I go to the lightest bead, and then I use kind of a medium bead. So most of your kits are going to have 3 different colors of the matte discs, except for the peony. I didn't find a color that made me, a third color, I should say. I did not find a third color that made me super happy with the peony focal point. So I just used two colors, and it's a fairly similar pattern. However, because there are only two colors, I just used it slightly differently. And of course, you will get a picture with each one of the colorways so that you can see how I used the discs. Now, of course, if you wanted to change it, you certainly can. You even have a few extra beads in each kit, so you can most definitely change the pattern if it makes you happy. But in the meantime, let's cut that, and where we just made a self needle, it is very dry by now, and for anybody who has never seen me make a self needle, this is all there is to it. So we put a little glue on it, and now we're just going to cut it at a 45-degree angle. Don't worry, don't get your ruler out. It doesn't matter if it's a 45-degree angle. I just like to create a little point, and it's just like using a needle. So next, this is what we're going to do. We are going to string a metal bead on each end, and I chose 8O seed bead, and this is a metal seed bead. It's one of those hollow seed beads with a large opening, and because it has such a large opening, I also am going to use one of those little teeny tiny spacers on each side. So the reason that we absolutely have to have one of these little spacers is because the hole on the 8O seed bead is just simply too large. And our knot, which is what's going to happen next, would simply fall right through the hole in the bead. So what I'm doing is I am just going to string one of these little spacers onto each end. And so here we go. So the spacer has a slightly smaller hole, and so obviously once we make a knot, it's going to hold it very nicely. Now before we start knotting, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put both ends together and just let gravity be my friend and slide everything down, and this way my focal point piece is right in the center. And now, because obviously I'm going to tie one knot at a time, since I only have two hands, what I'm going to do is put one of these stoppers on one side, and this way, as I'm trying to tie a knot, the entire assembly is not sliding over to the other side of the necklace and off center. So we're just going to tie a knot right here, right next to our little hematite spacer.
So Katie had a yummy salad, spicy sausage, and watermelon.
Oh my God, it sounds delicious. It sounds absolutely delicious.
Lori says, happy to be watching this, my favorite colors.
Oh, yay. Thank you so much, Lori. And I love watermelon. Oh my God, I cannot wait for them to have watermelon at the farmer's market because it's so good in the summer. So, you know, I don't know. Some of these colors are also making me think about fruit for some reason. Maybe not so much this. This is most definitely seafoam.
Allie says, whoa, time to break out the ot lamp for those teeny tiny spacers.
Oh my gosh, yes, for sure. Whatever it is that helps you see is definitely worth getting out. Okay, ladies. So now we're going to start knotting right here. And I have to say, everybody knots a little differently. So this was actually my very first prototype for, before I made the other four. But some of these were made by Bonnie, and Bonnie is awesome. She makes all of our kits. She helps me with samples, and I just wanted to show you that Bonnie's is spaced just a little bit differently. I don't know if you can tell quite, but if we were to be really scientific about it, we would measure and count however many per inch. But even visually, I can tell that hers are spaced just a little bit wider. And either way, it's totally fine. So Bonnie knots with an awl, and you may be an awl nutter, or you may be a tweezer knotter. However it works for you, it's wonderful. And if it's just a little bit differently spaced, who cares, right? As long as the outcome is beautiful and makes you happy.
Allie says these are like candy necklaces, just cute.
Thank you so much, Ellie. I love that you said that. Okay, guys, so I think what I'll do is I'm just going to tie the second knot right away so that I can remove my my holder, my bead holder. And so again, we're just going to tie a knot just like this. So this is my technique, and I'm going to break it down in just a minute. So, but I do really prefer just knotting with my fingers. It seems to work out really well for me. But as I said, whatever works well for you, just go for it. All right, so we're going to pick up with our self needle, where we pick up one bead. And this is my technique. You hold on to the bead, don't let it go. And wrap the seal-on around 2 fingers. So now we are going to sneak our thumb into the loop, and with our thumb and pointer finger, you grab the string like this and take it out of the loop. And now we're going to again hold on to the bead, and as you can see, the loop just stays right next to the bead. And we'll do a couple, and you let me know if this makes sense for you. Also, please let me know, how do you knot? Do you use a tool? Do you just knot with your hands? So again, loop, grab the string, pull it out, and you don't even have to push the knot toward the bead. You simply never let the knot get away from the bead.
Katie says the orange version's so outside my usual color choices.
It's funny because, and you know what? That's kind of what I thought. I thought, I love orange, but I don't know if anybody else is going to like it. Well, hopefully they do. And so far, it has actually been the most popular one. Of course, my very, very favorite colorway is the one that I'm working on right this moment. So what do you think? Does this make sense, the knotting? Let me know. So I'm thinking that I am just about ready to jump over to the next step. But let me know if you have any questions about knotting. Also, while you're thinking, I will say that once I have knotted the whole thing, what I do sometimes is I will just kind of stretch it out. You guys see it stretching and bouncing back. So it doesn't really stretch out a whole lot, but kind of pulling on it like this, it gives it some very nice drapiness. It creates a little bit more of a, like very minimally, but it creates a little bit more of a space between the beads, and it just creates a really nice drapey look for the necklace.
Barb says I knot with my fingers, and I've gotten better with practice. I'd like to see a demo using an awl sometime.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, me too. I would like to see a demo. No, actually, I'm kidding. Honestly, I have done it on video before. I do have some older videos where I've shown how to do it in theory, but I can tell you, I am not very good at it. We all have our favorite way, and you know, whatever your favorite way is, you just keep doing it, and I keep doing it with my fingers, which is why I am very good with my fingers at this point. And I have to say, I'm just not very good with an awl. So my thought is that if you want to see a really good demo, maybe just find it on YouTube, because I think I would probably do you a little bit of a disservice, because that's not really what I do in real life. It's kind of like I understand the theory of stitching, but if I were to make a stitching video, it probably would not be the best. So yeah, that's kind of my thought.
Allie says finger knots, still a work in progress and depends on the day.
Yeah, but I'm glad you said that, because I think that is very true for most people. And I think that, again, if you just keep practicing, it'll get better every time. And before you know it, it's like walking and chewing gum at the same time.
Ellen says, I knot with fingers except pearls, on board with an awl.
Okay, an awl is better than an owl. An owl can be inspirational, but I'm just kidding, you guys. I'm just being goofy. Okay, so next step. So, excuse me. So for the next step, once you have gotten to your favorite length, and you do have quite a few beads in this kit, and I don't actually remember what the maximum length is. Once I measure it and write it down and give it to Tony, it is completely out of my mind. So perhaps he knows. And we'll just let him think about that. So the max length. So, but it's quite a bit longer than my my necklaces in front of me. So anyway,
I think it's 21.
21, does that include the extender chain? It probably does. So mine are usually a little
21.
bit... Okay, fantastic. So it is 21. So this is really meant, at least for me, it's meant to be worn a little bit closer to your neck. However, if you want it to be your middle necklace, I'm assuming maybe like 3 necklaces, right? Or maybe just 1. So if you want that kind of a middle length, it can be up to 21 inches. Otherwise, I usually make mine about 16 plus the extender chain, so maybe 18, 19. And so once we get to our desired length, we are simply going to string through a soldered ring. So this is not a ring that can be opened. It is a soldered ring. And we are going to tie a knot. And really the only knot that is practical at this point is something like this. So this is an overhand knot. It's almost kind of like a little loop. I don't even know if it is truly an overhand knot, but it's something very close to an overhand knot. So really, however you can do it, it honestly does not matter, because it is going to be covered by a crimp cover. So I just tied a knot, and I'm going to glue it. And whenever I glue the knot, I always start out way out here on the string, and then I use the little piece of paper either to guide the glue toward the knot or away from the knot. And the goal is always to just barely get to the knot and stop. Because what you really do not want to do, I'm just putting my cap right back on. So what you really do not want to do is over glue and then have your glue on the string. Because if you should do that, the string becomes brittle and it will eventually break. So we want to glue our knot, but not our working string. So I think this should be, yep, this is dry. And we are going to cut off everything but the knot. So I get very close to it. I leave maybe like a 1/2 millimeter of string just in case. And of course now we are going to use the open jump ring. So regarding the jump ring, oh, actually, no, I'm going to save that for a second. So I'll come back to the jump rings. But in the meantime, we are going to use a knot cover, same as a crimp cover. It's the same critter. And we are going to, sometimes I pick it up with my chain nose pliers, sometimes I pick it up with my fingers. So the goal, of course, is to get your, ooh, and I just dropped it, but here it is. You know what? We're just going to open it a little bit wider. I often do this because sometimes I find that it's simply not open enough. So I open it a little further just by putting my chain nose inside it and opening my chain nose. And so now it should be okay. And yes, so it's a snug fit. But you know, I really like that snug fit. Whenever possible, I really prefer using the 3 millimeter crimp covers to the 4 millimeter crimp covers. And I'm just, I am using my chain nose to really stuff that string and that knot into the cover. Okay, so once I am satisfied with how it fits, I start closing the crimp cover. It's so small, it's a little difficult to hold on to, but we'll just make it work. Okay, so at this point, there's no way for me to lose it because it's mostly closed. So now I'm going to start finessing it. I close it until there's just that little mouth that's open. And at this point, I will shift my pliers from this position to where my chain nose is right at the edge of what is going to be our seam. And I'm going to gently press on one side and then turn it and then gently press on the other side. And this is what I mean by finessing. And at the end, you should have a nice little closed round or almost a round bead, and it looks something like that. Okay, so now for the final assembly, we're going to pick up one of our open rings. And, oh yes, and I have one right here. So that brings me to the next point. You will have a set of soldered rings and a set of open rings. I've already pre-opened mine, but yours may not look quite as open. So please, before you do anything, identify which one is which. And this way you will not you will not lose your necklace. Because, you know, once we've worked on it and as you create it, you fall in love with it. I always do with every one of my pieces, and I certainly do not want to lose it. So now I am going to use my chain nose and my flat nose and connect my ring and put my extender chain inside my ring. So now I'm connecting my extender chain to the rest of the necklace. And use your chain nose and your flat nose. As you can see, I always hold them at a 90-degree angle. And we're going to close our ring like that. Make sure there's no gap. And that's it. That is all we're going to do. And of course, the other side I have already done. So I connected just with a knot. I connected to the soldered ring. I covered the knot with the crimp cover, and then I used the open ring to connect the lobster clasp in the very, very same way. And that is how you make a mermaid's jewels necklace. So what do you think? Do you guys have any questions?
Beach treasures necklace.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm totally confused. So yes, it is Beach Treasures necklace. You know why I said mermaid's jewels? Because I'm already thinking about what we're doing next week, and it just sort of came out. So I'm just going to give you a little preview right now. So this is our mermaid's jewels bracelet. And of course, every mermaid, every mermaid needs to have some shells in her bracelet, and I have some cowrie shells, and of course, as you guys know, these are mermaid beads. Anyway, I was going to do the preview a little later, but it just sort of came out that way. I blurred it, and here it is.
Fonda says these are such cute necklaces, and Allie says bravo, they're all awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. So let me show you all the different colors, and I'll tell you the names so that of course you can go to our Etsy shop and pick your favorite. And these are already in the Etsy shop, and as of sometime tomorrow afternoon, they will also be in the store. Okay, ladies, so here we go. Let's just see if I can remember all of them. So we have Seafoam. I love Seafoam. These are so my colors, but then of course, all of these are my colors to some extent. So we have Seafoam, we have Lily Pad, Fire, Sky, and Peony.
Kim K says, can't decide which color I like best, so cute.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. If you can't decide, just get them all, and then you have a whole summer wardrobe. These are very summery. I love the colors on these. They're super vibrant. Some are a little softer than others, but I love that they're summer. I really, I love summer pretty much more than any other season. So I just really can't wait for this smoke to dissipate. And just one more little piece of news. So do you remember, this is the Song of the Desert necklace. We had 2 different styles, and they both sold out in about 5 minutes. Okay, not 5 minutes, but actually 2 days. In 2 days, they were gone. And this is the Yucca one, and at some point I will redo we'll make another batch, not another version, but exactly the same version of the Pueblo, but we're just waiting for the Pueblo pendants to come in. But in the meantime, this is super exciting. The Yucca pendants came in, and Bonnie worked hard on them today, and we have more of the Yucca. So please don't wait. These are a little bit hard to get. And so if you didn't get one and you wanted to, this is a really good time because they're back in the Etsy shop.
Fonda says, love the bracelet. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Fonda.
Katie says, love the shells.
Thank you so much. I love shells, and these are super fun. I'm going to model this for you guys. So these are super fun. These are cowrie shells, and they are electroformed. Of course, I can't really see what I'm doing. I'm going to turn it around, and then I'm going to show you. So they're electroformed, so there's a little bit of like sparkly silver on the shell. I think it's just such a beautiful accent, and I think they're just so fun with the glass. So this is what it looks like. And this, of course, is the preview for next Thursday. So this is going to be the live video next Thursday. and it is called Mermaid's Jewels Bracelet Tutorial. I hope you join me for this, but and I'm totally doing this out of order. So let me backtrack to what we're doing tomorrow. So tomorrow we have our shopping event, and the shopping event, I think you're going to be very happy with the kyanite and of course all the other goodies. So it's kyanite stone pendants, buttons, and more. But because we sold out of all of the kyanite pendants, and so because of that, I'm going to have more kyanite pendants, but wait, I'm also going to have some absolutely gorgeous kyanite beads in mostly rounds, and then there are going to be some faceted rounds. So that is tomorrow, June 30th at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on the Eclectica page. And well, I already told you about the Mermaid's Jewels bracelet tutorial. And then of course next week we're going to have another summer fun type of an event with lots of color, lots of stone and pearls and so much more. So put that on your calendar as well. Okay, ladies, and I believe that is all. So what do you think? Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments?
Allie says the bracelet you're wearing today is cool with the blues and greens.
Oh, thank you so much, Allie. I'll tell you a secret about my bracelet. It's actually not a bracelet. Well, it can be. Obviously, I'm wearing it as one, but this is kind of a versatile piece that I wear. You know how my jewelry is all kind of like Legos? It's all take apart. So this has two little lobster claws at the end. So it can be worn as a bracelet, but it can also be worn as part of a necklace. So like if I had a pendant with a little bit of something fun, maybe something beaded, and usually the focal point piece that I make is finished with a couple of rings. I could just connect right to the rings, and then this becomes a necklace. So that's pretty much how most of my jewelry is.
Allie says so cool, love it.
Thank you so much, Allie. And thank you so much, you guys, for watching. Thank you for your awesome comments, and have a wonderful and creative evening. I will see you tomorrow morning.